Good afternoon, America. This is Nelson Brigon, your Associate Assistant Deputy Secretary in the Office of Field Policy and Management. Welcome to our training for HUD staff on the Department's disaster operations under the National Response Framework and the National Disaster Recovery Framework. Today, we will be discussing HUD's role as a support agency under Emergency Support Function number 6, and as the coordinating agency for the Housing Recovery Support Function, including activities, deliverables, and what you can do to participate in these efforts. I am joined today by several of our most experienced disaster response and recovery staff at HUD who will lead the training. First, Mr. Tony Hebert. He's FPM Disaster Recovery Coordinator for all of HUD's 10 regions. Mr. Ed Ellis, the Knoxville Field Office Director. Ms. Migdalia Murati, Senior Training Specialist in the Office of Housing. And Mr. Dana Bress, Senior Research Engineer in the Office of Policy Development Research. And last but not least, Mr. Earl Randall, our New Orleans Field Office Director. For some of you, the briefing today will be a refresher. For others, you may be new to this work. The information provided will give you a clearer understanding for how you can continue as part of our disaster team. Please feel free to ask FPM questions about the information provided today and your role on our team. We have staff in the field and at headquarters to coordinate and support these activities. And we will work with our colleagues across HUD divisions to ensure that you have everything you need to succeed. So please, send any questions you have from this webinar to Mr. Hebert at tony.x.hebert@hud.gov. He will ensure that your questions get routed appropriately and are answered. Take it away, Mr. Hebert.
Thank you, Mr. Brigon. There are a number of statutory frameworks and other policy pieces that define HUD's disaster response and recovery work. First and foremost is the Robert T. Stafford Disaster Relief and Emergency Assistance Act of 1988. It laid out most of the statutory authority across the interagency, primarily with FEMA, for disaster response and recovery activities. Now, after Hurricane Katrina, the judgment was that the response and recovery was fragmented. As a result, Congress passed the Post-Katrina Emergency Management Reform Act of 2006. Now, this gave FEMA more responsibility for leading national responses to disasters, including across the federal family. So they had more authority for convening feds and putting them to work. Now, what does all that mean for HUD? Well, after Katrina, we established an Office for Disaster Management and National Security, which had authority to coordinate across the department and plug into this national framework that FEMA was establishing. We also revised disaster authorities in the field and increased staffing and coordination across these activities. So people like myself, I wasn't hired at this time, but my position was created to do the work that we're doing across our field offices after Katrina. Now, our role at HUD is defined by these different statutes and frameworks that came out of the statutes, including the Federal Continuity Directives, which is mostly COOP, but more important for our presentation, for our discussion and presentation today, the National Response Framework and the National Disaster Recovery Framework. Now, under those, we play a number of different roles and plug in our existing program statutes and post-disaster appropriations to support state and local recovery efforts under the larger FEMA umbrella. But what does that mean for FPM? Okay, so this hits the ground with our field offices, our 65 field offices and our field office directors and our regional leadership. The field office directors convene disaster response teams and field working groups for disaster preparedness, response, and recovery activities in their jurisdictions and they maintain, in partnership with the regions, disaster volunteer rosters. You're going to hear a lot about this during the presentation as our vehicle to respond to requests from FEMA to participate in activities under the National Response Framework and National Disaster Recovery Framework, that umbrella I talked about. Okay, the FOD, Field Office Director, also represents HUD at emergency and disaster-related interagency meetings. So they are the face of the department in the field when it comes to disaster response and recovery. They provide senior-level management of HUD teams deployed under FEMA mission assignments. We're going to talk more about what a mission assignment is in the next several presentations. In short, mission assignments are how FEMA engages HUD under the different frameworks for response and recovery. And the Field Office Director is going to coordinate with headquarters staff like myself and others on the implementation of those mission assignments. Under the National Disaster Recovery Framework, HUD has a more robust role, and the Field Office Directors there generally, although others could be named in this role, but generally the Field Office Director plays the role of field coordinator for the housing recovery support function before, during, and after disaster. Now, they remotely manage, typically, a team of staff working on site at FEMA JFOs, including a housing RSF JFO lead and subject matter experts. And Megalia Murati is going to get into that in more detail in terms of the roles and expectations during her presentation. Now, the next slide, please. I'm going to turn it over to Ed Ellis, Field Office Director from our Knoxville, Tennessee office. He's going to get into more detail on what our specific responsibilities are on the ground for the National Response Framework. Remember, this is one of those major pieces that was put in place after Katrina, and our role there, he's going to walk you through that. Ed?
Thank you, Tony, and thanks everyone out there participating with us today. As Tony said, one of our roles is under the National Response Framework document. And HUD plays a key role under this in conjunction with FEMA. And we play two key roles there. We staff up HUD staff at the joint field offices during a disaster. And also we have staff at the disaster recovery centers. In addition to that, here most recently with some of our disasters, we have actually staffed up some of the shelters to work with our partners. This partnership is not only with FEMA, but it's with our state, wherever the disaster may be. It's with the local governments, and it's with many of the local agencies, the local services. And most of all, it's in partnership to try to help the survivors that suffered the consequences of the disaster. How active are we? From the year 2011 to 2017, we were issued 38 mission assignments. And we'll talk more about mission assignments here in just a few minutes. You never know when you're going to get a mission assignment because you never know when the disaster is going to happen. One year we may go with perhaps no mission assignments. Then the next year, like this 2016, we may get 3 or 4 mission assignments. So it just depends on, again, the conditions and what happens with Mother Nature. What the roles and responsibilities that we have are spelled out in the framework under 15 emergency support functions. Those emergency support functions spell out all the different federal agencies that's part of the framework on what they do and the roles and responsibilities and how they partner with each other to meet the needs in regards to response. HUD plays the role under what's called Emergency Support Function ESF number 6. Under that is mass care, and again, that is, like working at the shelters or doing things in conjunction with that type of work. Emergency assistance, again, that could be helping our partners, and one of the keys of this is our responsibilities to help our HUD partners to help the survivors that may be living in public housing or multifamily housing or homeless shelters. Yeah, so it may be emergency assistance to help them even while they're at the shelters. Housing, again, one of our major emphasis is rehousing people and especially rehousing our families that are part of the supportive housing from HUD programs. Then the human services, again, in many cases, that may be the wraparound services, the supportive services. that programs like our CPD, Community Development Block Grant Partners, may be able to help us with. Next slide. Activation under the National Recovery Framework is triggered by the Presidential Disaster Declaration. And we hear this often on TV or read it in the newspapers that the President has declared a presidential declaration. But there's different types of presidential declarations, and again, more specifically in regards to HUD, under two different areas, major declaration and emergency declaration. Under the major declaration, that typically is where we get involved when FEMA will issue us a mission assignment to get involved under the ESF-6 to provide the different services that I just mentioned, mass care, housing, supportive services, etc. Under that, it falls under what we call individual assistance. There's another component called public assistance, but typically we don't get involved directly with that as staffing up the joint field offices or the DRCs, but yet we're familiar with that because many of our HUD partners, like our housing authorities or perhaps our cities, counties, others may be eligible for what falls under public assistance, and so we may just make them aware of that, but we don't directly get involved under the public assistance programs. Our services under ESF falls under the individual assistance structure. FEMA uses the mission assignment, as Tony mentioned earlier, and again, we'll talk about that, to actually engage us and get us on the ground to participate. The mission assignment describes what we're going to do as far as the emergency support function, ESF. And again, that would say that we staff up the joint field office. It will say that we will staff up the disaster recovery centers, and we may staff a lot of disaster recovery centers, or we may only staff up a few. And it may also say that we will participate and staff up the shelters. Next slide. How do we get to the mission assignment? Probably, again, depending on the disaster, Tony is engaged with FEMA. Maybe the regional administrator, deputy regional administrator is engaged with FEMA. Maybe the field office director in the state where the disaster is taking place is engaged with FEMA. So during this communication, there's discussion on what role HUD may play. And then at some point, FEMA will say, yes, we need HUD to participate. We need HUD here on the ground within the state where the disaster has happened. And so they issue the mission assignment. And again, there's going to be more details on how that works to get it all signed off. But basically, it may start at the local level and then go to headquarters, or it may originate at headquarters and come back to the local level to actually be implemented. And again, that's through the headquarters office of our Office of Disaster Management, and also with our Office of Administration. Once we get the mission assignment, and again, typically this is where Tony works with the field office directors and the regional administrators. Each region has its own disaster team, and so they stand up the disaster team. And again, depending on what the needs are, that may be just a few disaster volunteers, or that may be a lot. And so during that process, the regional administrator, deputy, field office directors are working to get the staff ready to deploy, to go out to the state where the disaster is taking place, and to staff up the joint field office, the DRCs, and again, perhaps maybe even the shelters. The FPM staff works closely with FEMA at the joint field office, as well as all the other partners, the federal partners, the state partners, and the other participants who are there. And the joint field office basically is the administrative arm of the disaster. The survivors do not come to the joint field office for support or any type of services. So there at the joint field office is kind of the administration on how do you hopefully most successfully meet the needs of the survivors, how do you coordinate with all your different partners, and so that's the work that takes place there. At the same time, we would be staffing up the disaster recovery centers, and that's where the staff literally meet with, again, the survivors, again in partnership with the different state agencies, federal agencies, to meet those needs. typically, HUD receives a mission assignment. It could be, again, depending on the disaster, immediately, or it may be weeks or perhaps even months down the road after the disaster has taken place. If it happens to be a major type disaster like a hurricane, we maybe get mission assigned rather fast. In many cases, we kind of wait to get the mission assignment, and then mission assignment happens on a Friday, and they tell us they want us there on a Monday. So it happens in different types of formats, but especially with the bigger disasters, it may happen rather quickly, and they may expect us out very fast too. So part of this is part of the process of getting our disaster team volunteers stood up, getting them ready, getting a sign off, et cetera, et cetera. Next slide, please. HUD, again, at the regional level and the field office level, we're working to identify the staff, get them ready, and again, when we do get the mission assignment, so we know where to go, and a lot of that entails getting supervisor approval, making sure that they have the right equipment, making sure they have the right expense code so they can travel, making sure they know where they're going to go. And then also we have to know and we set expectations on how long they're going to be out. Minimally, we want our volunteers at the disaster recovery centers to be there 2 weeks. Ideally, it would be great if they can be there for 30 days. If you're working at the Joint Field Office, typically you will be there minimally probably 30 days and perhaps even longer if you get supervisor approval to do that. What do we do at the Joint Field Office? Again, it's administrative type responsibilities, is the coordination between the different agencies. There's daily meetings, again, in regards to what's taking place with a disaster. We have to coordinate with FEMA, with the state where they want our staff to be at. Do we have to move the staff around at the DRCs? Do we have to participate in any kind of special type of planning process, i.e., how do you depopulate the shelters? How do you get people out of the hotels once they occupy that as part of the transitional housing strategy? So there's different things taking place at the Joint Field Office. Our staff that work at the DRCs, again, are working directly with the survivors. And so it's providing the services, the housing information, the supportive services, identifying any of the families that are HUD supported and wrapping them back with, again, if they're at a public housing authority or a multifamily housing agency, to make sure we're coordinating to see what we can do to help them to get rehoused, and in the meantime, if they need transitional housing, how we can do that. Next slide, please. We again, have talked about this, but there is a lot of meetings that take place at the Joint Field Office, and again, you'll hear this later in regards with Dana about different data that comes in, how many people are still living at the shelters, how many people may be in the hotel transitional program, how many people need other types of supportive services. And so there's a lot of these daily type meetings taking place in regards to how we can best serve, again, our families that are in our HUD programs and the families at large that need housing and need different types of supportive services that fall under the ESF 6 categories. The type of people that we need at the Joint Field Office are typically HUD volunteers that have worked the disasters. We need subject matter experts, again, like statistics that Dana brings to the table. We need people like Tony that, again, has the overall view on the mission assignment. And we need others that, again, have had that experience and can go to the meetings and represent HUD and represent, again, our families that need the support. Out in the field at the DRCs, we got to have people that, again, subject matter experts. But most and foremost, we need people that have that love, that energy to really and truly support families that perhaps have lost everything. They don't have anywhere to go. They don't know where to turn to. And it's how can you best think on your feet and react and help those families that need support, and make sure that you're reconnecting them to perhaps their housing providers, to FEMA experts within the program areas to best meet their needs, and at the same time to meet their immediate housing, transitional housing needs until they can get back to their home. Next slide, please. The other thing that's been a lot of part of our discussion is, as we have evolved, is trying to identify a smaller group of the volunteers that have had the housing experience, has had a number of disasters that they've been out on, from the small ones to the large ones, from New York to New Orleans. And we've created this kind of concept called a strike team that hopefully can be our foundation that in many cases may go out and help us to get off the ground, to get us going, and to kind of get the ball rolling and do some of the logistics that up front initially takes a lot of time and effort to make sure that we get off the ground and start meeting the needs of the survivors, and that we play a key role with our partners. Again, it's important to have, I think, a group like this because we can identify who they are. We can work with our supervisors, our program directors, our leadership at headquarters and at the regions to say, this group is the group that can best make HUD effective and efficient if, in fact, we do have a disaster and we are mission assigned, and we've got to be there and react quickly and hopefully be very efficient from day one going forward. So with that, that ends my presentation, and I will turn it back to Tony. Thank you.
Thank you, Ed. Appreciate that. We're going to shift gears now from response to recovery. As Ed mentioned, under response, we're a support agency under ESF 6, Mass Care and Housing. However, under the National Disaster Recovery Framework, as I mentioned earlier, HUD plays a much more vigorous role. We are the lead coordinating agency for the Housing Recovery Support Function under the National Disaster Recovery Framework, or NDRF. Now, as part of that role, we coordinate information and technical assistance across existing federal resources. That's key, existing federal resources. And HUD's field office directors, as I mentioned earlier, are usually the field coordinator for that effort, 99% of the time. We've had one example of where another federal partner played the role as field coordinator. I'll get into that later because the Housing RSS is a collection of federal partners that we coordinate and lead. This all falls under the umbrella of someone at headquarters, our National Housing RSF coordinator. That, for many years, has been Janet Gulrich, currently our acting deputy secretary. She's provided great leadership, and under her umbrella, we've moved forward a number of efforts across the country in states impacted by disasters. Now, the goal is to link what we have already and any supplemental appropriations to what the state and local communities are saying their needs and priorities are, right? So all we are doing is working to align what we have or what we might be given by FEMA to support those state and local priorities. But first, I want to walk you, before we get into more of what that means on the ground, we're going to have, as I mentioned, Migdalia Murati, who's going to walk you through roles and responsibilities, what we actually do for the Housing Recovery Support Function. In addition, we're happy to have Earl Randall here, our field office director from New Orleans, who's been deeply involved in this over the last year, and he's going to walk you through what it's meant for a field office director to lead an effort like this during back-to-back large disasters in Louisiana. But I want to give you a little bit of history about the Housing RSF, okay? So the kickoff activation of the Housing RSF was in 2012 following Hurricane Isaac in Louisiana. Now, over the next 5 years from that point, the Housing RSF was activated 18 times in 15 states, including 3 activations in Louisiana and 2 in South Carolina. The only states with multiple activations since 2012, right? So every other state has had onesies, but Louisiana and South Carolina have both had multiple implementations of the Housing RSF. All HUD regions have had an activation with the exception of 2. That being Region 1 in Boston and Region 5 in Chicago. So this is something that we've had to do in most HUD regions. But mostly it's in those high-risk disaster areas. Now, the largest number of activations was in 2016, when the Housing RSF was activated 9 times in 7 states, with as many as 6 concurrent implementations. And this included efforts in quite rural areas of Louisiana, West Virginia, South Carolina, South Dakota, North Carolina, Wyoming, and California, which emphasizes the need for partnerships with our friends at USDA and others, and I'll get into that a little bit more later. Now, this year, the Housing RSF has been active in North Carolina. That mission assignment ended. Is currently active in Louisiana, and as Earl will mention later, we plan to be active probably into the next fiscal year. And we are currently just recently on the ground in Missouri for our 3rd activation of this fiscal year. Work on Hurricane Matthew, as I mentioned, ended and that was around April 2017. And a lot of our work there was focused on a handful of very hard-hit rural communities. Work, as I mentioned, in Louisiana continues, and that's more statewide in scope. And in Missouri, again, we're looking at, more similar to North Carolina, localized efforts to help specific communities. The largest and longest Housing RSF engagements were after Superstorm Sandy in New Jersey, New York, and Connecticut from 2012 to 2013. The Louisiana flooding, which Mr. Randall, as I said, will go into from 2016 to 2017, and Hurricane Matthew in North Carolina and South Carolina. These engagements involved activation of multiple Housing RSF partners, deployment of HUD and other staff for 6 or more months, and numerous deliverables. The work in New York City following Superstorm Sandy was extended for years after the mission assignment ended, and it was extended under an interagency agreement with FEMA, which brought money to us to staff it for the long term. These larger activations stretched HUD and our partner capabilities across multiple states and concurrent Housing RSF implementations. We have been stretched thin by the big disasters on this in this function. Just to walk you through some of the high points in terms of our activities. Now, under the Housing RSF activation, our activities remain pretty consistent over the years, but they've evolved to include new expectations after major disasters like Sandy in 2012 and the flooding in Louisiana and North Carolina in 2016. When there are big disasters, it causes FEMA to reevaluate how they're doing and things change. Most engagements under the Housing RSF include convening the RSF partners, producing mission scoping assessments, implementing recovery support strategies in alignment with state and local priorities. Migdalia Murati is going to give you more details on that. That's our usual menu of activities. After Superstorm Sandy, FEMA provided new guidance on Housing RSF deliverables, which resulted in greater consistency across activations and really expedited our provision of information from federal partners on available resources and recovery capabilities. So it's improved over time, as I mentioned, in particular after Sandy. And more recently, Housing RSF activities in Louisiana and North Carolina have added elements to our work post-disaster in the recovery lane, such as housing fairs, collaboration on transition of families from FEMA IA temporary housing to permanent housing options, coordination across housing industry groups, including banks and landlords, engagement of HUD continuum of care homeless providers, and greater use of HUD FHA housing counseling agencies. These have been some of the things we've seen grow a lot, and a lot of that growth has been done by people like Migdalia Murati and Earl Randall, who will walk you through what they experienced in getting HUD to grow with FEMA as we build out our recovery capabilities. Next slide, please. So the objectives of the Housing RSF, okay, you've heard all of that. Our current objectives, we are aligned to assist the state and local authorities as they work to strengthen their post-disaster housing markets, meet the need for quality, affordable rental housing. These are the 2 biggest deals that we have to work on, and the greatest expectations for us are in those 2 areas. How do we utilize housing as a platform for improving quality of life? Just not building back what was there before, but how do we improve what was there? How do we make those communities more inclusive and sustainable? And how do we integrate disaster mitigation measures, resiliency elements into the recovery? Dana Bress from PD&R, who will talk later about what PD&R can contribute, has been instrumental in helping us work with states on that particular issue. Next slide, please. As I mentioned, we are not alone in doing this work. We are the coordinating agency, but we have a number of other primary agencies that work with us. FEMA, most notable, Department of Ag, also important. and Department of Justice. Those are our primary agencies. Supporting agencies, what you see there. I would say out of those, the most important are probably VA, EPA, and SBA, just based upon the kind of work we've done with folks on the ground. Now, some of the major issues we've had, I'm just going to raise a few things that we've seen across the mission assignments to date that strike us as things you should consider in your own field office if you get something, if you have a recovery mission assignment handed to you, if you're asked even without a mission assignment to assist state and local governments in partnership with FEMA on recovery issues. And again, Migdalia and Earl are going to go into more detail, but here are some things that we've identified. First, we recommend early connection with FEMA Federal Disaster Recovery Coordinators in your jurisdiction if you feel like there could be some role for HUD in disaster recovery. Every region has them. Some regions have two. It's important for you as a field office director, you as regional leadership, to know who that person is and to connect with them if you think that there's potential chance for us. Doing it early is important because that frames out what we are going to be doing before they have a chance to noodle with it too much. We want to be there and help them understand what we can do. The other thing is know the housing market impacts in your jurisdiction. Okay, what they're going to expect from us right out the door is what's happened to the housing markets, not just the HUD inventory. Know what the budget neutral ways to support recovery are from HUD and our partner agencies. Those things that are already authorized and appropriated, not new appropriations, the things that we already have out there that could be aligned with flexibilities post-disaster to help local communities. The next element that we've seen over and over again is coordinating the housing RSF for a FOT is a major collateral duty. Mr. Randall is going to go into that in great detail. This becomes a very big job, and you need to understand where our lane is, what you have to be focused on, and things that maybe aren't necessarily a HUD function, and understand how those things play out so that you can focus your efforts accordingly. Mr. Randall is going to touch on some of those things. And that's especially true for small offices. If you're a field office director as one person, like in Fargo or Sioux Falls, this becomes a big challenge for you. The next thing is understand the overlap of HUD community-based initiatives and FEMA recovery efforts. As a field office director, you have an awareness of other things we're doing that involve federal interagency partnerships, and there could be some synergies there. You could dovetail some of the recovery work on those existing bodies. Think about that and how can you blend those efforts together. Next, we've seen pre-disaster housing conditions can complicate FEMA verified loss assessments, okay? What this means is sometimes with pre-existing conditions, across what were maybe low-income communities that had deferred maintenance or low-income homeowners with deferred maintenance, it's difficult for FEMA to correctly assess the verified loss, right? And that impacts then our assessment of unmet needs. We may underestimate the unmet need. So one thing we encourage field office directors to do is advocate for that potential pitfall to FEMA during the assessment process. So be plugged in and do what we do at HUD, which is advocating for hard-to-house populations, low-income populations who are going to be more greatly affected after disaster. Next, HUD clients, this is something we always have to emphasize with FEMA. HUD clients are eligible for FEMA housing assistance if separated from their unit. So coordination with FEMA on this assistance and communicating accurate rehabilitation and rehousing timelines is critical. This was a big deal in Louisiana for Mr. Randall. Did a great job understanding how to link what FEMA was doing and what we were doing to transition families out of temporary housing back into their units. It's something as a field office director that you need to be focused on. And finally, from my point of view, the linkage of program offices to recovery support strategies is critical, especially after the mission assignment ends, and we're asked to ensure ongoing implementation and continuation of our technical assistance to state and locals under our existing authorities and appropriations. So this is an overview of the housing RSF. These are some things we've seen across the different states. I'm going to hand it off now. Next slide, please. I'm going to hand it off to Migdalia Maradi, and she's going to walk you through the roles and responsibilities of people on the ground, the things you're going to be tasked with as part of this mission assignment when you're working with our field office director, field coordinator for the housing RSF as a HUD JFO housing RSF lead, working on site, or as a subject matter expert. Migdalia?
Thank you, Tony. And good afternoon. So the Housing Recovery Support Function, or most commonly referred to as the Housing RSF, is one of the 6 functions identified within the National Disaster Recovery Framework. And in this role, the Housing RSF serves as a coordinator, a resource, a facilitator, and at times, and many times, a subject matter expert on housing. And we are often tasked to facilitate conversations, create links between communities and resources, provide guidance because of our experience in more than one disaster, and provide support and planning efforts are just a few of the exercises the Housing RSF will participate in order to implement and identify housing solutions to the impacted community. So as you notice here, we're talking about coordinating agency resources, right? How do we collaborate with our partners? Each disaster will identify or require certain agencies to participate in a much larger role. Some agencies will pull back. It all depends on what is going on with that disaster, right? And we also need to make sure that we coordinate what the requirements are for HUD as an agency, our mission, what our program offices capacity is and are at the time, and then coordinate that with our field offices and in the region. And we need to do this in order to manage expectations and the demands of what is going on with that particular disaster. We work, as mentioned before, with Ed Ellis, as Ed mentioned before, and Tony as well, regarding the field office directors and the field coordinators. This is all a team effort. This is not a sprint. This is a marathon, and we need to make sure that we are constant communication with one another to find out what is available, because anything can change at the drop of a dime, right? HUD is also engaged in a number of tasks that we are, and one is an MSA and an RSS that are all part of this whole mission assignment that is identified for that disaster, right? So FEMA will deploy. HUD has 2 major roles during disasters. We have a response team, and then the Housing RSF is part of the recovery team. And then we work with the Joint Field Office, or JFO, and you'll hear that. And sometimes the conditions are great, and sometimes they're not, because depending on the needs of that disaster and what's happening, stress is a high level. So it's extremely important that the Housing RSF maintains flexibility and understanding of what is going on with each agency. A lot of times you will have an approach or go into a JFO where there are new volunteers, even on the FEMA's side. So it is crucial that we take the time to educate and share information of what HUD does, because many people do not know the breadth of programs and resources that HUD has available. Something to keep in mind is that, as Tony mentioned, each disaster, each MA, mission assignment is different, right? The housing markets are different, the demographics are different, the community impact is different, the needs are different, and this can become a challenge and requires flexibility as the Housing RSF. And here again, additional subject matter experts, which is great because you can tap into our own colleagues within HUD. As Daniel coming in after me will be able, has served as a great resource during the research and development to share information. Next slide. So during the interagency collaboration, this is probably the most crucial role the Housing RSF is. So as a coordinating agency, we do a lot of the administrative piece, which is having these regular RSF meetings. We need to share information and experiences that we've seen, have heard of, because we can tap into, again, our own colleagues who have served as either field coordinators or Housing RSF in other events. So we have this foundation of experience that we can share with local entities and states. Granted, sometimes we go into a disaster that they all have had a number of experiences with disaster, but you can also go into a site and they have no experience, right? So we need to make sure that we understand that. And as Tony mentioned, The housing RSF is one of the most challenging roles because of all the either pre-existing or post-disaster that factor into the rebuilding process that we need to keep in mind. At the Housing RSF, we coordinate the Housing Task Force, and we also work with the response team that go out into the DRCs. And so sometimes we have to provide support and go to a DRC. We are there for the disaster, and we represent the agency as a whole, so that there is no, just you and me. This is all a coordinated effort that we all work together to make sure we get the job done, right? So collaboration to identify priorities. We're looking at information sharing on available federal resources. We're looking at collaborating all the housing RSF activities. My favorite, of course, is the housing fairs that I've done a number of, which you get to really have an impact and show and meet the people that are affected and how you as a HUD representative are really making an impact and providing a resource for those individuals. Joint planning, technical assistance, training efforts, and that is in North Carolina a big thing we did where I provided a HUD 101 and shared information about the many program offices HUD has, which served as a great resource, and then the other additional agencies decided to do that as well. Next slide. Right, so identify and communicate priorities. As I mentioned previously, there are two major priorities in the role of the Housing RSF. One is the MSA, which is the Mission Scoping Assessment, and then the RSS, which we will discuss in the next slide. So each creating foundations for the impact communities and states in order that they can use for their respective strategies to address their needs and areas of opportunities to rebuild. Sometimes when the communities are so in the weeds, they don't see other opportunities. And so that's where, again, the Housing RSF really serves as a resource, right? So we're looking at producing a mission scoping assessment, and again, a foundation provides existing data, what it looks like before the disaster, what it looks like now, what are the areas, and then again, initial priorities. What's the low-hanging fruit that they can do in order to begin the rebuild process, right? We provide support for highly impacted communities. And this is extremely important. In North Carolina, it became a key to one of the local tribal Indian communities who is not recognized by the federal government, but is recognized as a local tribal entity. So we had to manage that conversation. So during the development of the MSA, the role of the Housing RSF and their ability to work across the agencies and within our own agency is key to a successful submission of an MSA that provides a solid foundation based on experience, knowledge, facts, and research, and the local and state partners can then use that in the rebuild. Next slide. Right, so identify and communicate resources. We need to keep in mind that all of the agencies involved and the volunteers who are involved, as I mentioned, may not know everything that HUD does, may not know what are all of the housing resources that may not even be HUD that are available, right? The USDA has resources available regarding housing. How do we manage vets? So we are all interested in sharing the information, getting it out there in order to provide a constant stream of information so that we can avoid giving wrong information to the impacted individuals and families, right? So we're looking at identifying existing affordable housing resources. We're looking at existing authorities and appropriations. What can we do? What can't we do? Where the reallocation of existing funding for the disaster relief, right? So you have all this funding. What can the state do? How can they do it? Many states do not have a disaster office per se. North Carolina does have one. It has an extensive one where they actually copied the makeup of the NDRF and created their own RSF functions within the state, which did serve as a great resource. However, they did not also know in this new role what they were entitled to do, what they were tasked to do. So it's all a learning process, and we have to make sure that we keep that in mind. Not everyone has the experience. They have the commitment to help, but we need to make sure that we give them the guidance that they need. Mortgage relief, mortgage insurance programs, what is available out there. As I mentioned, the housing fairs, and also here in particular, the fair housing issues, right? So there can be price gouging regarding renters and landlords, and we need to make sure that we manage that. Potential new funding, what is going on with the CDBG grants, what is left within the state regarding the CDBG prior to the disaster, what is going to happen after the disaster, and of course regarding the DHAP, the Disaster Housing Assistance Program. As a coordinating agency, the Housing RSF serves as the lead in which many of the other agencies depend on. So a lot of agencies can't even move forward or identify what they're going to do or what they can do if the housing piece hasn't pulled in, right? Because establishing an effective and collaborative relationship with these partners is necessary to ensure that the impacted communities can begin to rebuild. And so as the Housing RSF, we really need to keep that in mind. Next slide. And here with the other priority after the MSA is the RSF, and that's the recovery support function. And again, it's taking on the initial priority, which was the MSA, that was the initial product we shared with states and local entities and how we can move forward. And then now we expand on that. Okay, so now this is an area of opportunity you can build on. Here, have you met with other developers? Have you looked at the private construction industry? How can we find resources that are available to everyone, right? So, of course, our priority is the HUD customer. However, at the end of the day, we need to provide support on housing on a larger level, right? So it's not just about HUD as a whole, but it's about providing safe and sustainable housing for everyone involved, right? So we're looking at housing recovery reviews across local stakeholders. We're involved with FEMA. We're involved with our response team. It's critical during this particular piece to find out what has been done because they're the eyes and the ears on the ground at the actual impacted areas. So they really serve as a great resource during the development of the RSF. Look at the definition of priorities, right? Because just because we as HUD may have priorities that we need to make sure that we align that with the state and then identify what other resources are available. And this is then we submit the RSS to the FDRC, right, the Field Disaster Recovery, and then we talk about how we can provide additional support, which is normally then kicked off to the field office directors and the regional offices to continue providing support. As I mentioned, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. And crucial to all of this RSS and MSA development is our partners in our Office of PD&R, and Mr. Dana Briss will take it over.
Thanks, Migdalia. I'm Dana Briss, a research engineer in the Office of Policy Development and Research. PD&R has staff, engineers and economists and social scientists that can help answer questions about the recovery for the larger community. We have data that reflects the community and the region and can provide insight to the housing, the demographic, and the economic conditions that the recovery is facing. Early in the response, we provide to the field offices the information in documents like Market at a Glance, which presents information about the larger housing market at the county level. It is also available at the state and regional level, but county level seems to work best. And this helps broaden HUD's traditional focus from the assisted housing stock to the broader community at large. We also help to estimate any unmet needs in the community, which can be used to inform things like CDBG disaster recovery grants and other focused investments. We work to share data with FEMA regarding their disaster survivors and the HUD clients. We have data sharing agreements, and we kind of facilitate that process. PD&R also manages the Geographic Information System platforms for the department and provides maps and other analysis to support decision-making. Some of our past research in building technologies and other topics can also help the communities with recovery. For example, we developed a concept called incremental reconstruction, where a homeowner might rebuild their house incrementally, which would allow them to get out of temporary housing faster and move back home, which is really in most cases, their first goal, their highest priority. And we help to inform the recovery strategies for the impacted communities by working with FEMA and the partners, using our expertise in land use planning, construction, building codes, regulatory processes, things like that. So basically, we serve as a technical expert for both the field staff, the HUD field staff, as well as the larger recovery community. And I'll now pass it on to Earl Randall from the New Orleans field office. Earl?
Thank you very much. And just to give some perspective of the impact in Louisiana, we were affected by 3 presidentially declared storms in the span of 2016 and 2017. There was the March 2016 floods, which impacted northern and central Louisiana, and the August of 2016 floods that impacted central Louisiana, spanning from Baton Rouge and Lafayette, reaching as far as some of the northern portions of the state as well. And we also had a rash of severe weather that touched down several tornadoes that impacted the New Orleans area. So when we talk about the severe storms of 2016 and 17, we see that 57 of Louisiana's 64 parishes were impacted. So that's pretty much the entire state of Louisiana impacted by these severe storms and severe weather. So what does that mean for displacement and HUD inventory across Louisiana? Well, according to FEMA, there were 193,000 individuals registered for FEMA. That included 11 multifamily developments that were severely impacted, where families were displaced out of those units. 16 public housing choice voucher programs were impacted, totaling over 1,000 housing choice voucher holders being displaced. On the public housing side, there were more than 15 housing authorities impacted, where more than 132 public housing units were vacated and 95 individuals displaced out of those units. So our initial focus is to return those providers back to normal as quickly as possible. In instances like this, where you would have longer-term recovery times, that stretches our goals out. So our focus switches to getting the clients housed within less than 2 weeks. And what that means is we have to really rely on working close with FEMA with individual assistance, as well as the temporary sheltering programs that they may have available at that time, as well as some of our other HUD products that we may have available. Perfect example, if an individual had to vacate a public housing unit that was subsidized with a Section 8 voucher, that individual could be reissued an additional voucher from the housing authority, find another unit, and be rehoused. In the instance of what happened in Louisiana, housing was very scarce. So we didn't have that many options. So some of our clients had to go into the FEMA TSA program and live in hotels until we found additional units. So that's where our coordination with FEMA comes in, and we have to move into a more coordinated fashion. Next slide, please. As mentioned before, we talked about the limited amount of HUD vacancies. So with that, we had that massive amounts of coordination between FEMA and HUD on what it would take to get our normal processes back underway, what it would take to get our public housing authorities back up and running, what it would take to get multifamily units back online, and what was that time frame. Time becomes our greatest opponent when it comes to recovery. In assessing the damage of many of our units that were damaged and offline, we saw that this recovery would take greater than 6 months. So we had to really focus on finding additional units, and we had to do it in a creative fashion. There were hundreds of HUD families that were in TSA and on rental assistance at the time of those floods. So we had to turn to non-conventional measures to identify units that we could bring back online and help to house the HUD clients that were on FEMA assistance. That became our primary focus, to depopulate the TSA program and rental assistance programs to move those individuals back into permanent solutions. So we did some outreach. We enlisted the governor's office and asked the governor to help us to outreach to property owners, both large and small, and we developed a program called Louisiana Housing Heroes. This program alone, when we initiated this program, it allowed us to bring an additional 700 units online very quickly. The mission of the program was to identify those units that can be quickly brought back online, as well as those units that may be 30 days out, 60 days out, or 90 days out of repair. What we wanted to do was to create an inventory of properties where we could depopulate the TSA program of HUD clients, move those HUD clients from the TSA hotel program into more permanent solutions. We were very successful in depopulating the TSA program, and FEMA asked that we use that same method to help them depopulate the program as a whole. This is a process that we implemented in the emergency shelters. At one time, we were asked to depopulate a shelter of 100 families in less than 48 hours. So we worked in concert and in coordination with all of our other resources, other federal resources like FEMA, the Red Cross. We worked with our state agencies and our housing authorities to reach out to landlords and provide inspectors so we could inspect properties, sign leases, and have individuals move out of the shelter into a permanent solution all at the same time. So this coordinated effort became a model that we used in helping FEMA depopulate TSA of HUD clients, as well as depopulate the TSA system as they were trying to close out that program. So we were proud of the efforts that HUD led on the ground in assisting FEMA, and we developed a strong working relationship with FEMA. One of the unique aspects of addressing the August floods was that we were still working the housing RSF under the March floods. So instead of waiting a significant period of time before enacting the housing RSF under the August floods was immediately initiated, so we were actually working response and recovery at the same time. So we were thinking about what would happen long term, all while we were still responding as well, because we could learn from some of the stuff that we had learned after the August event. So it really made a significant impact of being able to work recovery and response simultaneously. Next slide, please. In coordinating with FEMA, there were several lessons that had to be learned. Initially, out of the gate, we had to talk about duplication of benefits for HUD clients. We had to get a clear understanding of what constitutes DOB. If a HUD client was still receiving subsidy for a unit and they were still living in a unit, they could not be eligible for FEMA individual assistance. But if they could no longer live in that unit, they would become eligible for that assistance. So once we cleared up what the DOB issue would be for HUD clients, I think everything started to move smoothly for those clients. One of the things that we had in place was that the HUD staff that we had working on the ground in the JFO, in the centers, and here in the field office, we made sure that we kept in close contact with all of our HUD clients that were being assisted with FEMA, and we worked with them on developing their long-term housing plan. One of the things that we also were able to do was coordinate with FEMA on those entities that were able to receive public assistance. Our public housing authorities that were impacted by the floods were also eligible to receive public assistance funds, and we were there to help bridge that gap. We're still working on some of those instances and actually pushing those housing authorities to really follow up on where they are in that process. So that's one of the things that by being active and on the ground as the field office, we could work with our program areas to ensure that some of those agencies that were eligible for public assistance funds were right there and ready to fill out those necessary applications. The coordination effort between FEMA on individual assistance and rehousing, reoccupancy schedules is very critical. Once we know what public housing units or multifamily units are coming back online, that gives us a clear indication of when we can start taking HUD clients off of the FEMA assistance. And so that creates an area of coordination between FEMA and HUD that's very important in tracking all of our individuals that were impacted by the disasters. Next slide. as I mentioned before, some of our efforts in coordinating with FEMA allowed us to do some things that were different in this recovery. There was a joint FEMA outreach to HUD clients that were in TSA. This worked extremely well because we were able to depopulate the TSA program of our HUD clients and do it in such a fashion where we were able to move those individuals from that temporary situation to a permanent solution where they were able to execute the vouchers that they were issued by their impacted housing authority. And as I mentioned before, this process was readily accepted by FEMA, and they asked us to keep our staff in place to help them depopulate the hardest to house families that were remaining in TSA. And we successfully completed depopulating the TSA program several months ago. We have enlisted several of our state and local partners in this housing mission. Housing was very scarce after the floods, and so we needed to do everything that we could to make sure that homeowners, renters, rental property owners understood what resources were available. So what we were able to come up with, we designed what was called disaster recovery resource fairs. These fairs were one-stop shop fairs for individuals impacted by the disasters to come out to a user-friendly environment to really talk with agencies about what resources were available. What these fairs were able to do was to take individuals that were impacted by the floods, that were in their most vulnerable states. These individuals that they may have filed their insurance claims, they may have filled out the applications for SBA and FEMA, and were in the holding pattern. We call this holding pattern that disaster wall, where you hit that wall where what to do next. So these fairs were designed right at a critical point where these individuals can come in and really understand what other resources were available to keep them on the continued path of recovery. We saw individuals come in that were downtrodden and full of despair, and they left out with a renewed sense of hope and recovery after they left the fairs because they were able to talk to several agencies in a relaxed environment that wasn't hustled or pushed or pressured. So they were able to get information like from IRS, from USDA, from SBA, from HUD, FEMA, our state partners, some of our philanthropic partners. So everyone was on hand in these disaster fairs. And to date, we've had 10 disaster recovery fairs all across the impacted areas of the state. That allowed us to really make a significant impact on those individuals that were affected due to the floods. HUD has also been instrumental in developing, in helping FEMA to develop permanent incremental housing program opportunities. We are helping FEMA to design what may be the next tool in the recovery tool belt. FEMA's trying to get away from the trailers and the MHUs and looking for something more temporary to permanent that could be assembled quickly, that will move into a more permanent solution. So we're actively engaged with FEMA at the state and some of our other local partners to try and come up with concepts that we can move into a permanent incremental housing program opportunity that could kind of help us take recovery into another realm. These were just a few tidbits that we had from our Louisiana experience, and I thank you guys for listening at this time. And I'll turn it over to our next speaker, Tony Ebert.
Thank you, Earl. I'm going to walk everyone through the mission assignment process from start to finish on the administrative level, okay? So those of you out there are regional or field office leadership. This is important to you so that you understand the different things at headquarters and in the field we need to do to roll out our operations. And if you're a disaster volunteer, it's also important because it helps you understand the process and timeline through which you are engaged and then deployed out to the impacted area. All right, in terms of the mission assignments, we receive them either in the field or at headquarters, and FPM works with Office of Administration, Office of Disaster Management, National Security to jointly review and respond to those mission assignments, including establishing the budget, the scope of work, and the number of personnel that we need to send out under the mission assignment. We finalize that mission assignment and budget with FEMA, and we execute it through CFO within the department. During that process, concurrent to it, right, we are recruiting disaster volunteers for that deployment. So if you're on our disaster list, we're going to be talking to you. Ed Ellis mentioned strike teams earlier. Migdalia and Earl talked about how we quickly engage staff to be plugged into the recovery process that often runs at the same time as our response efforts. So if you're on the response team or recovery team, you can expect to be called from us at the front end of this process so that you're well aware of when you might have to go out if you're available. Now, no one goes anywhere, though. No one goes anywhere, though, until we have a travel code after the mission assignment is executed at the departmental level. Once we issue out that travel code, all you folks that have been identified as volunteers can deploy out to the site. And over the last several years, the Office of Administration has made great strides to improve that process. Those of you who are engaged in our work in Louisiana and even North Carolina at the front end know that it took a while to get that moving and there were a lot of hiccups. The process has been improved, and recently for our work in Missouri, received the travel code, which is within just a couple of days. So big improvements, and that means faster deployment for you all. In terms of the travel, you just are processing it like you normally would with that travel code in Concur. Next slide, please. One thing I want to emphasize, though, for the travel costs, none of that is hitting your program office accounts. That's all covered out of a departmental account, so it's not fronted by any of the office. One thing we have to do before you deploy is process your Fair Labor Standards status with Office of Administration Headquarters. The Fair Labor Standards Act governs overtime and things of that sort. So depending on your status, if you're exempt, if it doesn't apply to you, and that's the case for some staff out there, then we will likely change your status to non-exempt. What that means is you would get time and a half for overtime. But in order to get that, in order for us to make that change, you would have to be deployed for 30 or more days continuously. Okay? If you're already non-exempt, meaning FLASA applies to you, then you would already get time and a half for overtime, and there's nothing to worry about. But for that subset that needs that change, there is the requirement that you be out there for 30-plus days in order for us to make that change, okay? Otherwise, you just get straight overtime as a staff person exempt from FLASA. And we work with Office of Disaster Management and National Security and Office of Administration on that process. Their job is to make sure that you are compensated appropriately regardless of your FLASA status. Now, as it relates to overtime, you would process your overtime in WebTA like you normally do. And historically, that was fronted by your office and then reimbursed later. However, recently, another improvement, thank you, from the Office of Administration, was the creation of disaster-specific overtime codes in WebTA. Going forward, once these codes are assigned out to timekeepers and deployed staff, you would put this in with the overtime in WebTA, and it would never hit your program office account. The department would be covering it, and it wouldn't hit the budgets for your office at headquarters on down to the field. That's a huge improvement. Thank you, Office of Administration, for that. Now, the one thing I want to mention in terms of overtime, all right? So we talked about FLASA, and if you have the change made, if you were previously exempt, you move to non-exempt, you get the time and a half. Also, if you're already non-exempt, you're getting time and a half anyway. But all of us are subject to pay caps, okay? There's a biweekly pay cap, and there's an annual pay cap. It's at GS 15 Step 10. That's the cap, right? So if you're a higher grade and you're earning overtime, you could hit that cap on a biweekly basis, which means your money would be cut back. We can waive the biweekly cap, and we will do that for everyone who's deployed so that you can earn beyond that cap for the pay period. You may not get the money right away, but we'll make sure that you get it as a supplemental payment later. The one cap we can't waive is the annual pay cap. That, again, is GS 15 Step 10. So you could exceed it for 2 or 3 pay periods, but you can't exceed it on an annual basis. Normally, people have a lot of play in their budget. Let's say you're GS 13 or GS 14 or GS 12 or whatever. You have thousands of dollars before you hit the annual cap. It's possible, though, even at those grades, that you could hit the biweekly cap. In some cases, our staff work 80 hours of overtime on deployment. So you could hit that biweekly cap, but you're not likely to hit that annual cap. For those of you who are close to the annual cap, we will track that so that you don't go over. Next slide, please. In addition, on the overtime side, what we do is we process HUD 1040s. That's the old paper form, right, that we've all done and been doing in the department for many years. That paper process, separate from WebTA, right, because your supervisor is going to be approving your overtime in WebTA, but what the 1040 does is it tells your supervisor and it tells you what your overtime cap is, what our budget will allow, okay? So when we issue that out, it's very important for you to stay under that cap, and if you're not going to be able to, based upon the work conditions, our team at the JFO, myself, others, will work with you to revise the 1040 cap if it's appropriate, based upon the circumstances of your travel to the disaster recovery center or other things that you may be doing that could cause an increase in your time. But it's critical that you let us know right away when you see that happening, so that we can issue a revised 1040, hopefully within the same pay period, and that you're self-reporting your overtime that you work to us, so that we have good visibility in a real-time turnover for how much money we're burning. That's important because it's difficult for us to extract actual expenses, costs for us out of HUD systems through Treasury. A lot of our work is now done. This work is now done at Treasury, the Bureau of Fiscal Services. It's tough to get that information out of the system. There's a big time lag. So we want to make sure that we're good stewards of these budgets, that we're not anti-deficient over what we've been allotted, and we need the self-reported information from you so that we can track that. Over time, we'll get the actuals as a cross-check. But know that when you're out and deployed, people are going to be asking you for your time. That's because we need that information. So the process now has been improved in many ways. The travel codes come out quicker. You're going to be notified sooner with less delay to get out. And your program offices aren't going to be hit carrying a lot of these costs during the course of the fiscal year. Big improvements. At the end of all this, we close out the mission assignments and just make sure everything was done right. We double check to make sure everybody got paid appropriately. We make sure that the overtime codes were used, the travel codes were used, so that the cost did not hit program office accounts, and just close it all down and process reimbursements to FEMA. That is the mission assignment process. You've heard our presenters talk about what we do in response through that process, what we do in recovery through that process. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact me. We look forward to working with you on these efforts in the future. And with that, I turn it back to you, Mr. Burgon. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hebert. And thank you to everyone that tuned into our webinar today. We appreciate the work done by you and others in the field to prepare for, respond to, and recovery from disasters. Please continue your diligence across these matters and let us know if you need any technical assistance or support. Mr. Hebert and his team on our headquarters team are ready and able to support your efforts. Again, thank you for everything you do for the American people. God bless you.